Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Good evening and welcome to Plank of the Week. It's Friday night on talkTV. My name is Mike Graham and we have got an awfully big show for you because there's been a lot of plankery, not forgetting, of course, the Scottish Government, which is dissolving before our very eyes. They might get a mention, but I can't say it's too early. We've got a great crew and a great panel with which to choose the planks this week. We've got Peter Bleksley, we've got Georgie Frost, we've got James Whale, we've got Rebecca Twomey. Welcome. Peter Bleksley, would you like to kick us off?
Certainly.
Thank you.
It is Sir Mark Rowley.
Not for the first time.
Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police.
Yes, for the moment.
Indeed, yes. Yes, many would like to see him removed.
I think everyone would.
I'm not exactly calling for his head yet, but he's largely kind of nominated because what he did this week, and we might have expected him to do that, was he supported one of his frontline officers.
Yes.
I call them Rowley's robots
or
Mark's mouthpieces because when they appear on the front line at these pro-Palestinian demonstrations and they get themselves in an awful tangle.
They get it all wrong, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind they've probably only been briefed about 3 hours on a sausage sandwich earlier.
Yeah.
You'd think they might be out there.
Are they still allowed those?
Well, apparently so.
OK.
There's a vegan version as well.
OK, I hope so, yeah.
Yeah. So he supported this officer very much in the spirit of his predecessor, Cressida Dick, when many people were lambasting the officer.
Yes.
For calling a man openly Jewish, as he did, which was, of course, utterly
Which I didn't realise was an offence, apparently. According to the Metropolitan Police, it might be.
Well, you know, I mean, who knows with the Met Police? 1 week it is an offence, next week it isn't.
Right.
They don't really know.
Depends how many of you there are as well. If enough of you break the law, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's
indeed.
the way it goes now.
But the whole interaction with that officer, I think, is just a smokescreen for the bigger, much bigger and somewhat serious point I'm going to make. And that is that the Metropolitan Police police the disruptive, unruly, law-breaking elements of the pro-Palestinian marches, completely different to how they police other people.
Yes.
And this is Rowley and his senior team's instructions. They are handing down those instructions. They're the ones in charge.
Yes.
Police trust and confidence, as shown by a poll in the Times this week, is absolutely on the floor.
Yeah.
Rowley's in charge. He's my plank of the week.
I think you're absolutely right, because the man in question, Gideon Falter, who was at the march, some say to cause a fuss, but I mean, that's not illegal either. And we're going to see a clip of him in a moment. But, you know, this was a guy who was complaining about the fact that they were going to arrest him for walking across the road, because their view is that if you turn up at one of these marches and you're likely to cause trouble because the marchers won't like you, then you're the one that has to leave. It's absolutely mad. And they've done it before, because they've done it to the Iranian guy as well.
Yeah.
Well, let's have a look at Gideon Falter talking to Julie Hartley-Brewer.
If he's so serious about safeguarding the Jewish community, why doesn't he use these powers to ban the marches? And why doesn't he investigate all of the incidents that happened to me on the march instead of just press releasing that he's going to meet with me when apparently he has no intention of doing so?
Yeah, it's just an incredible situation, really, isn't it?
Rowley's robots are oppressing opposition to the pro-Palestinian marches. They are oppressing observers of the pro-Palestinian marches. They've chosen their side, which is not the side of many millions of people.
No.
So they are not policing without fear or favour or independence, and Rowley's in charge.
Yeah. He also managed to get them to wade in quite strongly when the St George's Day lot went out and about around Waterloo. Now, you might say that some of them might sort of deserve to get clattered from time to time. But the bottom line is, but it's the bottom line of that is, though, that what the people who were there say is that they were kind of pushed and pulled around by the police, which is something they don't do to the pro-Palestinian marchers. So, you know, they do definitely treat people differently.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
Georgie?
Yeah, mine is Sadiq Khan.
Do
you know, I've been coming on this show, Mike, for many years.
Many years. This is year 4, by the way.
And I think every single time I've been on, Sadiq Khan has been nominated.
He has.
Never by me. So this is a moment for me.
Yes.
So somewhere in a field in Surrey, Dorking, to be precise, are a load of non-compliant ULEZ cars.
Yes.
Why are they there in a field in Surrey? Because they should be in Ukraine.
Ah, OK.
Yes. Now, this is part of a scheme to get cars and vehicles over to Ukraine to help in the war effort, particularly on the front line, a humanitarian effort. They're apparently very desperate for it.
Yes.
So what do you do with non-compliant ULEZ cars that are going to be scrapped anyway? Well, you give people £2,000 for the scrappage scheme and they can tick a box and it can be sent to British Ukrainian Aid, which will send the cars to Ukraine.
Seems straightforward.
Right? It wasn't really. It took about a year to even get this off the ground. First of all, Sadiq Khan said, no, the law can't be changed. Then he said it can be changed. Then he backed it.
Right.
So therefore, where are we at? Nowhere. We're with a load of
So the cars are just stuck there.
in a field, not in Ukraine.
In limbo.
Now, look, bearing in mind, whether you think it's a good idea or not, you've got to question the fact
Seems
that
like a good idea. Seems
well,
a good
what
idea.
happens is they take these cars, if they're OK, the volunteers will drive them all the way to Ukraine. I don't know how far, but I think it's quite far. And then it'll be used in really seriously, humanitarian efforts.
Sure.
So these need to be
Yeah,
good
taking aid and
quality
stuff, yeah.
cars.
Right.
Why? There's been over 40,000 cars that have been scrapped as a result of ULEZ. These are decent quality cars. Not all of them, but can make the journey all the way to Ukraine and be used so seriously for humanitarian efforts, and yet we've been scrapping them.
Yes.
It's an absolute
madness.
waste. Ignoring
Also-
the fact that other schemes, I think it's Liberty Trucks Ukraine, for example, have sent 44 they've done out of the 400.
Is there not
40,000
also a
cars.
story this week as well about a guy who drove his car to Ukraine and having deposited the car in Ukraine, I think last September, he came home one day about a month ago to get about 5 or 6 ULEZ charges,
Sales away
which
from-
apparently his car had breached because it was being driven around through London. Now, his argument was, it's clearly not my number plate. It's not my car.
Cloned.
But TfL will not back down. They're like, no, you owe us all this money. And he's going, I haven't even got the car. And literally, he's got a picture of himself dropping the car in Ukraine, giving it to a guy, handing him the keys. He's got all of that. And they're still coming after him.
That's the icing on the cake,
Isn't
for me,
it?
isn't it? Absolutely splendid. I mean, the whole scheme was thought up by one guy who got so fed up he took a car and bought a ULEZ car, non-compliant, and drove all the way to Ukraine.
You know what they should do is they should hook up with the car stealing gangs. You'll know about this because apparently people, particularly if you've got a new Land Rover or Range Rover, there's people nicking it off the streets of London, driving them to Moscow because you can't buy them there because of the sanctions, and they're selling them. High-end sort of, Range Rovers and Land Rovers to very wealthy Russians. They could get these cars to Ukraine.
I mean, it's Dorking. I don't know where in Dorking, but somewhere in Surrey.
Why is it more old Dorking?
I don't know. Just
Dorking, you know where
that's where it
Dorking
ended
is.
up.
Dorking's a nice part of the world.
It
isn't
is.
It's got a big cockerel, hasn't it?
I used to go to a pub down there,
Yeah.
which I can't remember the name of, but it was quite a famous pub. And a lot of television types used to drink there.
Be the Dorking pub.
It might be,
Yeah.
There
Don't
we
you
go.
think the Ukrainians would prefer rockets and anti-missile systems than 1982
Well, they're going to get some of
Ford
those.
Cortinas?
They're going to get some of those as well.
I like
You
that.
know.
There was this story this week, the reports where they're actually leaving wounded men on the front line because there's no, they're basically
They
they
haven't got
need the
enough
vehicles to
transportation.
take
Yeah.
able-bodied. This is an awful thing
Yeah,
to say,
it's
but
a
fighters up.
shocking
So
state of
the fact
affairs.
that those cars are sat there and there's no kind of humility
Yeah.
about it, this is disgusting.
The
crazy.
scheme is just also completely. It just highlights as well a bit the whole. I just think hypocrisy of the ULEZ thing. So I'm going on two levels here. One, they obviously need vehicles in Ukraine, and two, why are we scrapping perfectly good cars? It's
exactly.
absolute
Madness.
It is an
Why aren't
absolute
we scrapping
madness.
ULEZ? Never mind about
Yeah, well, that's
everything
the other
else.
thing.
You know,
Anyway,
let's get rid of
James,
it.
over to you. You want to talk about the St George's flag?
Yeah. OK, so apparently if you fly St George's flag, which I did just out of wind-up, whatever, on St George's Day last week, you are a racist.
Yes.
Now, when we go to the demonstration you were talking about, one pillock did come out with and hit
An
a horse.
umbrella, he hit a horse
and
with
I
an
hope he's
umbrella.
locked up for 10 years. And the people on that march were behaving, in a sort of rather
But see,
disgraceful way.
they will say though, they will say that they were behaving like that when you saw them behaving like that because of the way the police were treating them.
Look,
Who knows?
I don't want to see the Palestinian flag being flown all over
No,
our
I
streets.
don't.
I want to see the English flag, which I find the English flag, I want to see us flying the English flag and being proud of the English flag. I don't like the Crusader flag. I think it's boring and rather dull, white with a red cross celebrating a really bad time in our history. So I want a red flag with 3 blue lines.
What do you want? The 3 blue lines, one on top of the other, like the 3
Like the
lines on
Normandy
my
one,
shirt?
but they have 2, yeah. And I think that will have gold.
So you want a
gold.
new flag?
We want a new flag, an English flag.
Right.
Because we could quite easily take it back from the racists, and I think we do. I think
Well,
the
hang on,
racists...
Nike have already done a new version.
Good
Why don't you
say.
just use that one?
No, that's
Why don't you
not-
just use that
no,
one?
we have to agree on a flag because that was rubbish.
Yes.
And quite frankly, insulting.
It was
to us.
insulting.
So I'm never buying a Nike thing again.
Could
in
you
my
not
life.
use the 3 lines, the sort of royal standard
Yeah.
flag? but without making it red.
Yeah.
Why does it have to be red?
It doesn't. It can be
Right.
any colour you want.
Okay.
Blue and gold, I quite like.
Yeah.
What do you blue and gold?
The thing about the English flag, though, is that in Scotland, you see the saltire everywhere, right?
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
fly it all the time. It's not just
We
on St
need
Andrew's
to
Day.
take the national flag
In Wales,
back.
they fly the Welsh flag all the time. They're quite happy to fly the flag in Ireland. But for some reason, it's the English one. 1 in 8 Labour supporters, Labour voters, thinks it's racist and divisive.
Well, I
1 in
should
8.
think one in
13%.
30 or 40 Labour voters probably think the whole country is slightly racist. I don't know,
but do you know
it's
what's
not.
really
We are
boring?
not we have not been this. We're not racist now. I don't think there's a bunch of people either sides of the racial divide.
There's always been
who
people who are racist.
Yeah, who are trying to stir it up. Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
That did nothing at all to help race relations. Back in the 80s, 90s. We were much better. We got on a lot better,
Yeah.
everybody. It wasn't too good in the 60s and 70s, but back in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't as bad as it is now. We didn't have, even with the mods and rockers, you might remember this, Peter, we didn't have the stabbings and the killings.
No,
and
they went down to Brighton to have a fight, which was fair enough.
On the beach.
You know, on the beach.
Out
at
of the way.
Hastings. Yeah.
You know, and if these people want to do this march to support terrorists, as they do at
Yeah.
a weekend, go on a beach somewhere and do it.
Well, I've always said they should corral them into an area of Hyde Park. They can go
Hyde
there every
Park.
Saturday. They can have a bit of a rally. They can have some speakers. They can have Jeremy Corbyn. They can have, whatever they like, have a stage, have some bands playing, and just do it once. It's fine, absolutely.
And London
But you know
can
what
go
I want to
about its
mention?
business.
Yeah, but what I want to mention as well is the really tedious people who tend to be on the left wing, who every time you mention St George and the flag of St George, oh yeah, but he never set foot in Britain, and he wasn't actually English, he was actually Turkish, and he's buried in what is now Israel, but used to be Palestine. It's so tedious, but they do it every year.
But that's all
every
religious
year.
rubbish
It's a
anyway. I don't care
multicultural
about
flag,
the
isn't it?
religious
Well,
stuff.
it is.
So
Well,
that's good.
what I said this year was, isn't it funny that all of these kind of so-called lefties who love everybody from a foreign land don't like St George because he's foreign. We're not allowed to have it. So it's quite weird. Anyway, let's look at Suella Braverman, who was speaking earlier on talkTV.
We do tend to get this sneering snobbery towards the masses or the people and those of us who are speaking for the people. And I do think Emily Thornberry does personify that, and they generally think it's all a bit uncouth and a little bit unsophisticated.
Yeah.
It's what I like to call the luxury beliefs brigade.
The luxury beliefs brigade is good, though, isn't it? That's Suella Braverman talking to Julie Hartley-Brewer, who incredibly, though, didn't say anything. I think that's the first clip I've ever seen of Julie Hartley-Brewer not speaking. Anyway, Rebecca, over to you.
Well, my nomination for you, Mike, is Exeter University.
Yes.
So there is a student called Robert Evenson, and he has now come to light that he was investigated for saying in the privacy of his own dorm at university on a private phone call, someone overheard him talk about veganism and that he wasn't for it and that he didn't quite believe in gender fluidity.
It's hard to believe that this is not a joke, isn't it?
And also, the bigger joke is that he was studying philosophy.
Right.
The questioning, the debate, the discussions. Exeter University, a Russell Group university, one of the best in the country, is penalising someone for a private conversation. Now, what I want to know is, would he have been given the same treatment if he'd said, being a carnivore?
Yeah. Or if he'd said, St George was a racist or something.
Yeah,
That'd
anything
be
like
right.
that. Anything like that. And he was on a sort of behavioural contract. He went in front of a board. He had to apologise. For his whole undergraduate degree, he was monitored for everything that he
ridiculous,
said.
isn't it?
It's absolutely insane. What's interesting, though, is that he stayed at the university, and good for him. He's now doing a master's. But what it says for the freedom of speech and for universities.
Yeah. But the universities now seem to be full of people who want to shut somebody else up. And
I think,
they don't agree with them.
sorry to butt in, but I think we ought to look very carefully at the sort of people who are running our universities.
Yes.
Because A, they get paid too much money.
Way too much.
Far too much money. And B, the lecturers seem to be all of a certain kind. I don't think I've ever found one lecturer who would get up and say, do you know, the best part of the Conservative rule was under Margaret Thatcher. What a great, strong woman she was.
You definitely get reported for that.
You'd be done for that, wouldn't you?
Doesn't it smack of Stalinism a bit?
It does.
You
It
know,
does.
Reporting on your neighbour.
Right.
What's awful is they had two people, I believe, that came round from the university to this gentleman's
Into his
dormitory,
room.
put their foot in the door.
Right.
And they said one of the reasons that they sort of held him up was because also he was being quite difficult. Well, you would be.
Yeah.
If someone came into your room.
Also, excuse me, it's not as if he's threatening to kill anyone or he's plotting some kind of, heinous crime. He's just said, I don't think veganism's really very good.
Do you understand
That's
what
it, you're out.
veganism is?
Hey?
Do you know what veganism is?
What?
I don't know.
What do you mean?
I don't
veganism?
care.
No.
But it's not like he went to like PETA's head office and started waxing lyrical about it. He was doing, even if I don't think that's a terribly bad thing. I believe in the freedom of speech, but the phone call was in the privacy of his room. So somebody was eavesdropping and got rewarded for snitching.
Right.
That's a bigger problem
It's
as
just
well.
like I don't
I
listen
think.
to my
The
phone
problem
calls.
with veganism is that vegans are always so self-satisfied.
Right. Well, they're
Have you ever
not
noticed?
satisfied at
In
all,
the
though. because
confines-
They're hungry a lot.
Meal in weeks, you know.
Yeah. But in the confines of his own accommodation, somebody eavesdrops a private conversation which contains nothing illegal, and yet that young man is subject
Right.
to an
now,
internal
as a
investigation.
former senior police officer, you can tell us what the law is on this. Because what if you hear somebody say they're on the phone in a street, and if they say something which would be illegal, I don't know, like plotting some kind of attack or something like that.
But this would be different, wouldn't it?
But you
Because
wouldn't arrest somebody for saying, I don't fancy vegans much, would you?
No, of course you wouldn't.
Maybe they would now.
Well, maybe.
New Rolly robots, Mike.
I'll give Rolly's robots a ring and see what they say. Yeah.
Nowadays, maybe,
Yeah.
But wouldn't this
You're
be
Nick's
under
son.
Exeter University's kind of rules? That's what they would say, that you
Yeah.
are in technically our property even though you're paying rent, presumably.
That
and
is
therefore you have to
nonsense,
go
isn't
by
it?
our...
So how do they do the philosophy lectures? You know, put your hand up if you agree with
Trigger
everything I've
warning.
just said, and if you don't, you're out.
Yeah.
You know, very good. Well done. The higher education of this country. What an absolute nightmare. Coming up, we're going to talk about the devolved governments of this country, because the United Kingdom, of course, has the Welsh, it has the Scottish, it has the Northern Irish as well. It's not going very well. This is Plank of the Week. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. I'm Mike Graham, and it is the only place to be on a Friday night. We're underway, and we've already got 4 very good nominations. I'm going to add one to it. My first nomination is the Welsh Government, which is laughingly called a government because not really much of a government. They used to be run by Kim Jong-Drakeford, who decided to step down a little while ago. So they've, like Scotland, got another unelected leader, right? Humza Useless up there got in because Nicola Sturgeon stepped down. Drakeford steps down. So now we've got Vaughan Gethin, who used to be the Secretary of State for Health or something in Wales.
Good Welsh name, though.
It's a good Welsh name, yeah. Vaughan Gethin. Anyway, you might remember they decided to impose this ludicrous 20-mile-an-hour speed limit across the whole country.
Yeah.
And there was a mass revolt. People just said, this is ridiculous, we can't be having it. You know, because a lot of the roads they were putting the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on were sort of dual carriageways running off into Snowdonia, where there's literally no cars, you know. But they said it's not just about saving the planet. It's also about safety because, you know, a lot fewer people get killed if you hit them at 20 miles an hour.
And sheep.
Well, by that logic, you might as well drive at 5 miles an hour, mightn't you?
Yeah.
And that way you won't kill anyone either.
Or walk.
Or just walk, or get on a bicycle. Seriously, I mean, I get overtaken by cyclists in London because cyclists go about 20, 25 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And they go through 20 mile an hour zones and they don't get a ticket.
And
Let's
they
have a
go
look.
through red lights and they don't get a ticket.
Yeah, I know, because they
And
haven't
they
got any
ride on the
registration.
pavement and they don't get a
They don't
ticket.
get tickets for anything.
Cyclists,
I know,
waste of
don't
space.
get me started. Anyway, I think we've got a little clip which is an example of the speed limit and how it should be done. Now, this is what... this is what the Welsh are doing.
Was that a lawnmower?
It was. I think it was a. It looked. Have another look. I'm not sure it was a lawnmower or one of those disability scooters.
Yeah, mobility scooters.
Yeah, it might be a mobility scooter that's been souped up. It is. It is a mobility scooter. Here we go. Which also presumably doesn't have a registration plate, so they can't do him either.
But no cyclists, no electric scooters, no electric bikes, none of them have any way of identifying the person on it. It's balmy.
It is.
And quite frankly,
And dangerous.
anybody that allows this to happen doesn't deserve to be in a political situation.
But don't worry, though, because they've got a new transport secretary in Wales. Do you know what his name is?
No.
Ken Skates.
Well, let's hope he gets
Get your
them on.
skates on, Ken.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ken this week decided that maybe this 20-mile-an-hour deal wasn't such a good deal after all. So now they're going to reverse it. Have a look at this.
We want to hear your views on speed limits in your community to make sure that we have the appropriate speed limit on the right roads. And maybe that as a consequence of the consultation that we're going to have with you and your communities, we'll see certain routes revert back to 30 miles an hour.
What an absolute plank.
34 million, that's how much
34 million pounds,
What could have
apparently.
gone to other,
well,
like, health
what I
and
don't
all sorts?
understand is, but also, whenever they say these things, what did they spend 34 million on? A few signs? you know, or a few, you know,
advertising
speed
campaigns?
cameras, advertising.
Consultants.
The Welsh political party is just it doesn't do anything for Wales.
This
whole
is the
thing,
Labour Party.
I've spoken about this before. I'm half Welsh.
Yeah.
My mother came
Bad
from the valleys.
Did she?
Yeah. A long
part?
time ago.
Right, look, you're-
Rumney.
Oh, really?
But
Bertha, not Bertha Tidfield.
the Welsh language is fine. If you want to speak Welsh,
Yeah.
fine. But to
It's
have
the
it
law now.
thrust upon
That's the
you,
law.
to have every sign and every
Yeah.
document in two
Yes.
languages costs them a fortune.
It does. And
I
every-
love Wales. I absolutely love
I do.
Wales. And I'm going to try and persuade my wife for us to go there for a short break or a little holiday.
Where are you going to go?
But can you imagine? Somewhere lovely. But can you imagine
Very nice.
if I'm driving, I'm going to have my wife keep her eye on the speed limit.
Yeah, of course.
Because 1 minute it'll be, right, 30,
Right.
20, 30.
It's exactly like that.
It's going to be a
It's
complete
exactly like that.
mishmash.
It will be.
I was in Pembrokeshire last month, exactly like that. You think you're doing okay, then suddenly you have to slow right
And there's a
down.
load of speed cameras as
Yeah,
well.
then you have
Yeah.
to suddenly speed up again. The thing is, you just get stuck behind tractors a lot, especially in Pembrokeshire.
Yeah.
You don't need a speed limit, to be honest with you. That keeps you safe.
But you could
most
literally
of the
get, if you
time.
drove all the way down the M4 and you went sort of through Cardiff and Swansea and Llanelli and all that, you probably rack up about 55 speeding tickets before you
I
came
don't
back.
know why people don't go down to the Gower Moor, because it's a lot easier
Nice
to
down
get to
there.
than Cornwall and Devon.
Yeah.
Go to Puthcall and
Okay.
stay in the Seaview Hotel.
The Mumbles
lovely.
is nice.
Or the
Mumbles is
Mumbles,
gorgeous.
yeah.
The police will
Catherine
spring it there
Zeta-Jones
as well.
comes from there, you know.
They solved a crime within 2 weeks of vandalising my friend's house in Pembrokeshire. They actually called us back and told us they'd caught the culprits.
What, the head loo? Blimey.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the police, by the way.
Wow.
Anyway,
Not
Ken
so
Skates.
fancy.
Ken Skates, right? This is the guy who's obviously got a bright future in the Welsh Government. I predicted he might be the next leader because he's listened to the people and he's announced that he's going to listen to them. But he already knows what he's going to do because he's already going to reverse it, regardless of what they say. Anyway, so that's them, the Welsh Government. Peter, you've got civil service.
At the last count, the civil service,
That's count.
that very backbone of this great nation,
Yeah.
employed, brace yourselves,
Go on.
502,000 people.
Right.
Over 500,000 people. So you'd think it would have enough employees.
You would
wouldn't
think so, yeah.
You'd think it'd have plenty of people to
They're
do
all
the
working
job.
from home, though, aren't they?
In fact, it was announced by the government this week that they're going to reduce the size of the civil service
goodness.
because it got a bit bloated during COVID.
Oh,
when
really? 'Cause they hired a load more
employed
people,
of
didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're going to reduce the size of
Okay.
it. So you think, okay, reducing the size of it. So what's the story here? Well, the civil service
10%.
have announced that as part of their diversity, equality and inclusion
Yes.
drive, they're going to reach out to prisons to employ people who have recently been released from jail. What's a good idea? I'm all
Brilliant.
for rehabilitation.
Brilliant.
I think that's brilliant, right?
So they're hiring more people.
So they're going to hire more people,
Right.
but specifically, in order to tick a
Crooks.
few diversity
Crooks.
boxes, they're going to employ crooks.
Brilliant.
Certain
problem
crooks
is-
will be barred.
Right.
Like if you've had a life sentence, you
Okay,
can't do it.
right.
You might be a bit busy doing a bit of time, mightn't you?
You might be.
In
Mind
that
you, they
event.
let them out, though, when they work out they're no longer a danger to society.
But bearing in mind how many crimes you have to commit to actually go to jail.
About
these
35,
days.
isn't it?
I mean,
It is.
it's astonishing.
They reckon it is about 35.
No,
I can't
seriously,
help
yeah.
but wonder, are those people going to be suitable for jobs in the civil service?
This is going to...
Might even be better
Do you know
than the
what?
people in the civil service at the moment.
I don't hate this idea because I have to say this. Well, this diversity, equity, inclusion. It's like I don't represent every woman. You need diversity of thought.
So what, you want somebody
diversity
to come
of
in...
experience,
What,
as
somebody
well
who's
as
been in
diversity
prison?
of skin colour, diversity of sexuality.
That's a really good point. I agree with
so
that,
actually,
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
hate. Sorry, Peter, I don't hate this.
So you want
They've
somebody...
served the time.
You
they've
want
done
somebody...
the crime.
You want somebody to come in to the civil service, work alongside you, I pretend you're a civil servant,
Right.
work alongside you because they'll know how to strip the lead off the roof.
Do you know what? It's a life skill.
Or break
I
into your
guess,
house.
You know?
Yeah.
While you're at work.
Oh, well,
Actually,
you-
they won't do that because you'll be working from home.
Oh, you're on holiday next week, are you?
Can they work from the prison?
Have a nice time.
Can they work from
Guys,
the prison?
This is quite a serious problem because I think this country is being let down
Yeah.
primarily by civil servants.
Yes.
And who employs civil servants?
Well, we do.
Civil servants employ
Yeah,
civil
but we
servants.
pay for it, though.
But the politicians are so weak.
Useless.
Most of them,
Yeah.
so weak
Yeah.
that they don't even make any decisions.
No.
They allow a 12-year-old in their office who is
Yeah.
apparently a political whatever advisor.
Yes.
I mean, we see them on all programs, don't we? They look about 10 or 12
they're not
years
shaving
old.
most of them.
Yeah, and they're the ones who tell them what they should be doing.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
I
We
know.
need politicians who are in charge.
I know. Well, do you know what the civil service are doing next week? They're making a legal challenge to the government on the Rwanda bill. To make
Who the
sure
hell
that-
do these people think they are?
I know. We're paying for that as well. We're paying for the barristers, we're paying for the legal experts that they're hiring, and we're paying for every single bit of the legal
Let's
challenge.
go on a tax strike.
I've rounded
Yeah.
your way of thinking, Georgie. Maybe they should employ a few very competent criminals so they can raise some money through criminality to pay for all of this other nonsense.
wouldn't have to,
they get up to.
Thinking outside the box there.
Yeah,
Thinking outside the box. Yeah.
Thank you for challenging me.
That's all right.
This is why Plank of the Week is so good. By the way, next week we're going to get a blacksmith on, because we haven't had a blacksmith on Plank of the Week, and I don't want to be accused of not having enough diversity.
Well, my toenails need a blacksmith.
Yeah, there you go. Well, get your hooves done while you're at it.
Yeah.
The Royal Mail, Georgie.
Yep, the Royal Mail for me. I mean, think about the poor Royal Mail. You know, it's really suffered.
I don't even know what the Royal Mail is anymore.
It's got staff that are striking, not for a year, but they're striking. They want more money. They want good conditions. How dare they, right?
The Post Office and the Royal Mail are different now, aren't they?
Oh,
They're two separate entities.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, that's a bigger question,
Why would
Mike.
you go, there's the Royal Mail, what did you do with that? You put it in the Post Office. That's not the same thing.
No, they used to have an exclusivity deal, actually,
That's
with the Post Office about but they lost that.
Use
Poor
Amazon.
things.
Right.
You know, they've had fines because they're missing all their targets.
Yeah.
You know, they've had more complaints, 50% last year.
Yeah.
Had to pay out 21 million in compensation. You know, feel
What's
sorry
the-
for
what's the
because
people?
they have to stick to this universal service. You know that they have to guarantee 6 days a week to 30 million households across the country. Which, let's presume, when they took over the brief, they knew that, right?
Right.
No, I do not feel sorry for Royal Mail, but they're in a bit of a parlous state. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
So how are they recouping this money? You wonder.
Right.
Well, look, they've always had an issue with fake stamps. Now, a lot
Fake
of them have come
stamps.
from China. You know,
Counterfeits.
it's quite counterfeits. Thank you very much, Peter.
People used to steal stamps, didn't they?
Oh, look, this is a big thing because in 1989, by the way, they changed the rules that you can, if you're a shop or a post office or whoever, wherever you buy your stamps, you can buy them for wherever you want to.
Right.
And they are going up. They're really expensive. $135 for a first class stamp. So people are online and they're buying it cheap. But some of these counterfeits are getting even into the post office.
Right.
So what they've done is they've put these barcodes on. You might have noticed those. Then what they say is that's going to make it digital. So you can scan the barcode, and you can look at the lovely message from your aunt or whatever. No, that's not the case. Basically, they're using it to work out which
If it's in
one's a counterfeit.
Chinese, you probably know, right?
So now they know the scale of the problem. It is a big problem.
Yeah.
So they're trying to recoup the money by basically fining the recipient of the letter. So if you are this person receiving a bill or an old lady receiving a lovely letter or whatever, you have to pay £5 fine, not £1.35 or however much the stamp costs, a fine of £5. If you try and complain, tough.
Right.
How unfair is
how
that?
do they sort of land
Let's
you with
do
that? then?
away
Do they
with
send
don't
you?
need
Do they
them
send it
anymore.
to you?
If you want
Through
your
the
letter,
post?
no, it's like
Get
if
rid
you
of the
want your
Royal
letter,
Mail and the whatever. Get rid of them. We don't need them. We've got Amazon.
right?
and
I was going to
others.
say, if they say if you
This
want
is
your
bonkers.
letter, you have to pay £5. I'm sorry.
ridiculous.
How much is that going to open up to scammers?
Right.
You already get scams from everything anyway.
Also, a lot of people,
process
elderly
pay-
people who use the Royal Mail, because I don't, I mean, most people don't. I was away in America for a week, right? Came back, opened up the mailbox. You know how much mail I had? None. Literally nothing, right? So, but older people won't know this, and they'll get a demand to pay a fine, and they'll probably end up, you know, giving somebody their bank account number, and suddenly all their money will disappear.
And some of these have traced them back to the post office, and even then they've gone to Royal Mail and said, "Look, we got these letters, they've got these stamps from the post office." They said,
Right.
"No, sorry, tough,
Don't need
nothing
them
we can do."
anymore.
Does
Nothing
this
you can do
apply if you get a letter with a counterfeit stamp on it from France?
from anywhere.
You have to pay
I
€5
see.
then.
Because my wife,
Answer me this.
My
I
wife told me to go and get some French letters the other day.
No, that's a wrong thing.
God's
I'll explain
sake.
to you afterwards. No wonder.
Yeah.
Got so many kids. I don't understand. I only get non-delivery of parcels
Right,
from the post office
Right.
or whatever it's called.
right. And
If
they
you-
don't bother.
if
They just
you-
put a thing through your door, don't
and
they?
say,
They don't even leave
yeah,
the parcel.
exactly.
They didn't even try to deliver it.
Yeah.
Right.
But all these other delivery companies, DHL, Amazon,
Yeah.
and loads of others, you never seem to have any problem with them.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, but it's about the letters. And then, yes, I appreciate that not that many letters being sent in comparison to what it was, but that's still 7 billion. That's not
There's still a
not
lot of
that
Christmas
many.
cards and that kind of thing,
Exactly.
birthday cards and all that.
I mean, just honestly.
Anyway, we've got a little video to play you. This is the Royal Mail attempting to prove themselves to be virtuous. Have a look.
As the UK's greenest delivery company, we're reducing our emissions per parcel from 205 grams CO2 equivalent today down to 50 grams CO2 equivalent about the same as having a cup of tea. And we're aiming for the business to be net zero by 2040.
Yeah, by not
Net zero by 2030.
You're going down the
bankrupt
tubes.
by 2031.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the point?
You'll be issued.
I don't care if they're carbon bloody neutral. Just deliver the stuff,
Yeah.
right? I've got a parcel coming. Is it going to be delivered in a carbon neutral manner by blowing one of those stupid bikes with a big box in front of it? No.
Or is the carbon footprint bigger than a cup of tea?
Do you know what they also do? The posties now, they push these huge carts around. They used to just have a bag. What's the cart for? Looks like selling ice cream.
Makes them a bit more efficient. They can carry greater weight of.
Yeah, but they've
of
not carried
parcels.
anything because everything's going as James says.
I've got one serious question.
Hurry up though, because the music's going.
Why do they all wear shorts?
Because it's hot. Global warming.
That is a big question.
It reduces
Have you
the
noticed
carbon
that?
footprint.
Must be
Yeah, must be that.
Monopoly needs competition.
Yeah. Anyway, coming up, what are we doing next? I don't know. Let's have a look. Oh, Joe Biden's up. That's good. It'll be good. And also, Rebecca's got Iceland, not the country, I think. This is Plank of the Week. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. We are more than halfway through now. We've got lots of really, really good plankery going on. And it's now time for James Whale to give us his. And it is the President of the United States of America.
Where do I start?
Well,
apparently, a relative has recently, well, not recently, but apparently recently he said a relative was eaten by cannibals.
I did this on my show because I thought it was so ridiculous, right? So ludicrous.
That's where I saw it.
Yeah.
But I can't believe
Right.
that
It was his
is
uncle.
a true story.
Well,
His uncle.
he says it was his uncle, right, who was in the US Air Force during the Second World War. And apparently his job was to fly single-engine planes over Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
Which, so I didn't know they were in the war, to be honest. But, I mean, apparently they found the plane when it crashed, but they didn't find him. And so he claims that he must have been eaten by cannibals. Let's have a look at the clip.
He got shot down in New Guinea, and they never found the body because there were a lot of cannibals for real in that part of New Guinea.
Cannibals for real, man.
As opposed to pretend cannibals.
Well, my beef with Joe Biden is simple. It's not because of that. It's because he looks worse than I feel, to be honest.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, he can't string two words together. He makes a mockery of the whole of probably the most dangerous country in the world. America is the most powerful country, therefore the most dangerous. He has his finger on the button. And quite frankly, if he had anything about him at all, he would stand down.
Well, what about his wife?
Election.
If I was his wife, I would say to him, you shouldn't really run again, Joe.
No.
I think you're really up to it. Don't you think?
But he's had an uncle eaten by cannibals.
Well,
no wonder he's
should I tell you my
traumatised.
cannibal joke since you did that other
please
terrible
do.
one? What did the guy say to the two guys, two cannibals having dinner? One said, I don't fancy the mother-in-law much. He said, just leave her on the side of the plate. I don't know why that's funny, but it is. Anyway.
It's very sexist as well. But Joe Biden, I think, is dangerous to the whole world if he gets in again.
Well, I think he's dangerous even before he gets out.
Yeah.
Because he's still got another sort of more or less year to run.
But why a country like America with such a huge population? I find Trump entertaining.
Yeah.
I don't mind him getting in. Really, it'd be something to talk about.
Well, also, the world was a lot safer when he was around.
Yeah, but why are there two guys nearly in their 80s?
Is this the best America
Is that the
can
best
do?
that they can do? You
Well,
get old,
apparently it is.
and I can tell you're not as good as you were when you were a bit younger.
Well, it's very clear that he has problems realising, one, what day it is, two, where he is, what he's doing. You know,
or going upstairs.
Going upstairs.
Or downstairs.
Well, falling upstairs in his case. Let's have a look at what Fox News had to say about it.
Papua New Guinea's prime minister's not laughing. He says his people aren't a bunch of South Pacific Hannibal Lecters. Quote, President Biden's remarks may have been a slip of the tongue. However, my country does not deserve to be labeled as such. And he's not alone. Local New Guinea historians also taking issue, saying local people wouldn't just eat any white man that fell from the sky.
I mean, everybody just laughed out loud when he said it, because also you can't go around accusing countries of being cannibals. I mean, they may have had many years ago a problem with tribes who may have eaten other human beings in some kind of ritual, but it's a bit of a sort of old lag's tale, isn't it?
Speak for yourself. I've had relatives eaten in loads of countries.
Have you?
Yeah.
It's a very, very strange story. Anyway, over to you, Rebecca, with Iceland.
Well, speaking of frozen goods,
Yeah, very good. See what you did there.
Iceland, the supermarkets, have now decided to be more inclusive and change their slogan from "It's not that's why mums go to Iceland," it's "That's why we go to Iceland."
Oh, right.
It's a bid to be more inclusive, so that everyone else who isn't a mum or doesn't identify as a woman feels that they can go there.
Right.
But
not that anybody didn't feel like they could go there before.
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, 64% of their shoppers are women.
Yeah.
Who mainly do the household shopping. That's just fact.
Right.
But they want to make sure that dads, people without children, students, everyone feels that they can go to Iceland. But I think the bigger problem is being uncomfortable probably after a lot of, heavily processed food is more likely to make you feel uncomfortable than an advert.
To be honest, I didn't know that was their slogan.
Really?
Because mums go there. I didn't know that.
Was that the one where they tap their thumb?
No, that was Asda. It was well, Kerry Katona was the original face of Iceland.
Really?
Kerry, I mean that's not
your own, just to be clear.
I mean, if you have somebody as the face of anything, you don't really want Kerry Katona, do you?
Well, I mean, she did lose that deal with some of her problems, but then it's Josie Gibson, who was, on I'm a Celebrity last year. She's now got the deal, but she's obviously helping it be more inclusive.
I obviously don't watch enough television. I've never seen any of these adverts.
Yes, she is a mum, so that's what's quite ironic. She is a mum, and when you look at the actual advert, it's not very diverse at all. When you look at the people on the advert, it's very white.
Yes.
So it feels very silly that they're trying to be diverse but not really following through.
I don't think they did it for diversity, though. I do think it's because it's just a rubbish slogan.
Well,
how much does that age you? That's why mum's gone to Iceland.
I don't know if this is going to change, but one of the reasons that all these companies, as we discovered to our cost, I suppose, in the last few months, one of the reasons they do all this is because of this Stonewall register, which apparently gets you, sort of brownie points with investors and with the city and with shareholders and all that. So if you are all woke, it's not just because you're virtue signaling, it's actually better for your company financially. So that's the problem here, isn't it?
Does anybody take any notice of that now?
Well, I don't think anybody ever did.
No,
but the trouble is, because the financial people take notice of it, they all do it. And so hence, what happened to Nigel Farage with Coutts Bank and all the rest of it, where they were more worried about the Bank of England having gender-neutral toilets.
People are pulling away from that.
I think they are.
That's for sure.
That actually being white is a bit of an embarrassment now, isn't it? Because you're always having to apologise.
Well, they want you to apologise.
Apparently we have white privilege.
Yeah, apparently so. I don't feel as if I've had white privilege all my life, do you?
No.
No, although my sister rang me once and she said, Mum's gone to Iceland. Right? I said, lovely. 3 days later, I got a postcard from Reykjavik.
Did it have a real stamp or was it fake?
It cost me a £5.
There you go. I've been to Iceland. The funny thing about Iceland, not the shop, the country, it doesn't have any trees.
No.
No trees.
It's got one on display.
We're coming up, I'll tell you what we're coming up with. Coming up next. Oh, it's nearly at the end. How have we done this so quickly? We're going to be talking about a new group of activists, right? Not just Stop Oil, not Extinction Rebellion. These are people who go shoplifting and they claim that they're doing it for the public good. Absolute planks. It's all coming up next. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. I'm Mike Graham, and this is, of course, talkTV on a Friday night. You won't want to miss, coming up a little bit later on, The World According to Mike Graham. We'll tell you more about that. Also, you won't want to miss something that's coming next week, and that's me back on breakfast from 6:30 a.m. Until 10, followed by Julie Hartley-Brewer. And, of course, James Whale will be on over the weekend as well.
There'll be no drinking for you over the next couple of months, will
People
there?
keep saying this to me.
No
I don't
drinking
understand
at all.
why they think I won't be able to drink, because, I always
You're getting
drink.
up at 4 in the morning.
Yeah,
Good luck with that, then.
And I finish work at 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
So between 10 and, say, 4 in the morning, it's quite a lot of hours, isn't it? I think I could probably manage a couple of swift halves. What do you think?
Couple of swift
halves.
And a few hours kip.
And a few hours kip. Yeah, I mean, I might have to go to bed earlier than children do. But that's
bet
fine.
what you
I
end
can
up
drink
doing.
in the afternoon.
I bet what you end up doing on a breakfast show, because I've done it.
Yeah.
You go to the studios after at night and
Yes.
sleep in the studios until the morning.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I bet we
I
find
only
you
live
in...
10 minutes away. I mean, I don't need to. I can.
Oh, God, I forgot you could afford to live around here.
Yeah. Speaking to the man who, one of the first people to buy a flat in Canary Wharf and make a fortune on it. Thank you very much indeed. Anyway, that's got nothing to do with the plankery that we wish to talk about, because I'm going to give you a new group of activists, right? Now, we've had Youth Demand, which were the ones I discovered. There were these kids who are very, very angry and are not taking it anymore.
And pale and skinny.
And pale and skinny, and they look like Sparks, that band from the 70s. We've also had Just Stop Oil. They're claiming they're going to wreck everybody's holidays in the summer.
They've kind of disappeared.
No, they're coming back in the summer.
they?
They're going to sit on plane runways. They're going to sit on
Really?
airport runways. They're going to glue themselves to airport terminals. They're going to jump on planes.
You know what I would do? I'd get one of these big diggers and just go along and scoop them all up.
Yeah, I would. Well, if you glue yourself to something, just leave them there. Just draw a line around them, and put a couple of cones.
America, they pull them off.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do that in Europe as well. Extinction Rebellion are going to be out and about as well. They're going to be marching around. But this is a new lot of people, right? And this lot are called Everybody Eats.
Everybody Eats.
It's not a great name, is it? It's
Is that like Uber Eats?
It's almost that Iceland slogan. And here they are.
Yeah.
Everybody Eats. Now, it won't surprise you to know that they're all white, they're all middle class, and they're all planks. They look exactly like Just Stop Oil. Now, what they're holding up there are packets of Percy pigs, because what they claim they're doing is they're robbing from supermarkets because people are starving and they can't afford to eat, and they're giving food to food banks. Right now, call me old-fashioned. If you're starving, what you're not looking for is a packet of Percy pigs, are you?
No.
I mean, you're probably looking for maybe a couple of pizzas, maybe some ready meals you can eat up, hamburgers, something like that.
I didn't see Bob Geldof back in the 80s airdropping Percy pigs into Ethiopia, did you?
But you might as well have done, because what he did airdrop, it didn't do any good anyway.
What a bunch of clowns.
And they are absolutely a bunch of clowns.
This goes back to the education system in this country.
Yes.
What are people being taught? That they're going out marching in support of terrorists, gluing themselves to the road to make the planet a safer place. Now they're going to steal to feed the poor.
Yes.
Who's told them this is necessary?
But except they're not, right? Because, you get all these lefties who claim there's 4 million people in this country in food poverty. Now, I don't know what that means, but according to these Wallies, Everybody Eats, they're calling for direct action on food poverty. And so they targeted a Marks and Spencer's food hall. I don't know why Marks and Spencer's not Iceland, but maybe they like the food better. Chorlton Cum Hardy in Manchester.
Chorlton
Cum Hardy in Manchester, which I don't know. So they took a load of Percy pigs, they took a load of other Marks and Spencer's stuff, and they said they gave it to food banks. So they also said the food banks knew it was stolen.
Yeah.
Now, surely...
And it's stolen goods.
Surely, if you're a food bank, you shouldn't be taking stolen goods, should you?
Criminal offence, handling stolen goods.
But
Exactly right.
these kids, it shows that they don't really have much life experience because they don't think about the repercussions, firstly, of the food banks handling stolen goods, but also there is a cost to pay for theft, particularly in supermarkets. Security guards don't earn an awful lot of money. They're under a quota. If they don't meet that quota, they can lose their job. For the staff, it does affect the pay of the staff there. So if you think you are doing something for the benefit of certain people, you're actually harming more people.
It's typically middle class.
It also increases the cost of the food because they're going to try and recoup that money from somewhere. So it means you're paying even more. We got rising inflation.
And they did
we all know what happens
And they did it also. I mean, another one for the police here, because no doubt the police didn't bother, but they posted on social media this message with that picture that you just saw. Today we took food from an M&S in Manchester without paying for it. The food will now be distributed straight to people in the community as well as local food banks. So they're admitting in public, on a public platform, that
So
they've
why
stolen.
aren't they arrested?
Well, exactly right. Why haven't they been arrested?
Peter, get on it.
What bothers me about delivering it to the people in their local community? All right, food banks I can understand, right? Because they have to go through a process. You have to apply, you go there, etc.
Yeah.
And through that process, you get access to help, to benefits. People can look at your situation, etc., etc. So vulnerable people are helped along the journey to which they get to a food bank. I don't know if they've ever worked in a food bank. I doubt it. I have. If you just hand it out to people in the local community, they are not getting access to that help to understand where benefits are from. Sorry to take it seriously, but I do think there's an element of it that is so naive.
Yes.
And it's
but it is
completely
naive. But all of this stuff is naive. It's like the Just Stop Oil Wallies who sit in a road and they think that they're going to have any effect on the style of the planet and the way that the planet heats up or cools down just because they've made a bit of a demonstration.
But the other key word, apart from naivety, which is hugely applicable, is the entitlement of these people.
I know.
The absolute privilege and entitlement that I can glue myself to the road, I can walk into a shop and steal something, and I can do whatever I like.
Right.
How have those people been raised?
Exactly.
Where's the parenting been? Where's the discipline?
Good
They're
question.
A disgrace.
I've got something else for you here. An M&S spokeswoman, no less, said the company has reported the crime to the police.
Good.
Who are investigating.
Good.
What are they investigating? Yeah, but hello, what are they investigating? They've admitted stealing, right? There are pictures of them. You can probably find their names pretty easily.
I know. Get one on your programme.
No, don't
and
do
while
that.
they're on the programme, get the police and get them to come in and arrest them while you're on air live.
Such a massive problem for
Be good,
supermarkets at the moment anyway, regardless of this. So what does it do when people are watching them steal, thinking, free-for-all, why not? I'm not going to get stopped, am I? So they're all going to go in.
You're a school kid, you're going to go, well, let's just go and rob the place, right?
Yeah.
They've also put out on the street some of the items they stole with a sign that says free food. Now, how stupid would you have to be to pick up some oat milk, which is one of the other things they stole.
I saw that.
Right? Yeah. Some oat milk, which isn't milk at all, and then pour it over your cornflakes or whatever it is you're having, not knowing whether it had been poisoned. I mean, I wouldn't pick food off the street, would you?
No.
And why do they think people who are desperate for food are going to pick it up anyway? They might not be there.
Well, people, in my view, are not as desperate for food as we keep being told they are.
No.
You know, I just don't see people wandering around looking as if they're suffering from malnutrition. Quite the opposite, in fact. Most people walking around are overweight, aren't they?
Don't look at me.
Food poverty, really. Anyway, so we have to decide who's going to win it. I don't know this week. Shall I give it to the vote, just for a change?
Yeah.
Right, so why don't you tell us who you think the plank should be, Peter?
Sir Mark Rowley.
OK. Georgie?
Oh, come back to me. I can't remember who we've had.
All right.
At my
James?
age.
I actually think...
Royal Mail.
Oh, you're doing
You can't just say your own.
Royal Mail.
James?
I won't say my own. I actually think that last one you were talking about, those
These planks, the foodies?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think they should be
I'm
planks.
in agreement. The food
Really?
is
Yeah.
real ignorant.
See, Mark Rowley's done it. He's had it before. I think that would be a surprise win for me, that one. They call themselves Robin Hood activists.
I call them Robin Hood nutters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robin bastards, I call them. That's good, isn't it? I don't know if I can say that on this show, but there we are. So we're going to give it to this mob of people
Everybody Eats.
who are called Everybody Eats. What a bunch of planks. There you go. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to Peter. Thank you to Georgie, to James, and of course to Rebecca as well. We won't be back on TV next week. We will be back on YouTube, so look out for us. And also you can find us on Talk as well. We're not quite sure when yet, but we will find out indeed. Thanks to Tim as well and all the crew. Well done, guys. Thank you very much indeed. I'll be back, of course, with the World Economics with Mike Graham tonight at 11:30. Back on Monday morning for breakfast with some free food. We'll see you then. Night-night. Now, here's a list of all the people running for mayor in the London local elections. Femi Amin from the Animal Welfare Party, Count Binface for Mayor of London, Rob Blackie, Liberal Democrat, Natalie Campbell, Independent, Howard Cox, Reform UK, Amy Gallagher, Social Democratic Party, Zoe Garbett, the Green Party, Taryn Gulati, Independent, Susan Hall, Conservative Party, Sadiq Khan, Labour Party, Andreas Christofi, Independent, Brian Rose, London Real Party, and Nick Scanlon, Britain First.